Have you ever wondered how some people can start from absolutely nothing, sad, lost, depressed, lazy, and seem to have no purpose, to just a few short years later completely turning things around and becoming extremely successful, healthy, and striving in all areas of life? While a similar person continues going down the same negative path and are never able to get things turned around. Napoleon Hill claims in his book, Outwitting the Devil, that the two secret principles by which the devil gains control over our minds is through the principle of habit, which then leads to the habit of drifting. When a person drifts on any subject, they are heading straight towards the gates of hell. By the gates of hell, he means an unfulfilled, depressing life, and by the devil, he means our negative thoughts, or nowadays referred to as our personal demons. In this video, you're going to learn the difference between a person considered to be a drifter versus a person considered to be a non-drifter, and how you can begin to make the changes needed to live a more successful, happier, and fulfilling life as a non-drifter. Hill best describes the word drift by saying people who think for themselves never drift, while those who do little or no thinking for themselves are drifters. A drifter is one who allows themselves to be influenced or controlled by circumstances outside their own mind. They would rather let others occupy their mind and do their thinking than go through the trouble of thinking for themselves. A drifter is one who accepts whatever life throws in their way without making a protest or putting up a fight. They don't know what they want from life and spend all their time getting just that. They have lots of opinions, but they are never their own, most of them supplied by negative sources. A drifter is one who is too lazy mentally to use their own brain. Now if you're thinking, well shit, that's basically me, don't freak out or become discouraged. The good news is the qualities of a drifter is not permanent, and once you become aware of your own negative thoughts, emotions, habits, and actions, you can begin to change them. I myself spent well over the first 20 years of my life in a constant state of drifting, and still find myself holding some of these attributes at times. But as we begin to take control of our circumstances, habits, and create a definite purpose, we can climb the ladder towards a better life. Hill writes, "Accurate thought is the death of the devil, and he cannot exist in the minds of those who think accurately. The devil does not mind people who think as long as they think in terms of fear, discouragement, hopelessness, and destructiveness. When they begin to think in constructive terms of faith, courage, hope, and definite purpose, they immediately become allies of the devil's opposition and are therefore lost to him. Nothing can stop the devil in our minds except the power of accurate thought. People who think accurately do not drift on any subject. They recognize the power of their own minds and take over that power and give it to no person or influence. Along with negative thoughts, the devil controls us with negative habits. As habits are related, drift in one direction and soon you will be drifting in all directions." Napoleon Hill writes, "Habits come in pairs, triplets, and quadruplets. Any habit which weakens one's willpower invites a flock of its relatives to move in and take possession of the mind." I found this statement to be incredibly true in my own life. Once I started becoming aware of my own thoughts and actions a few years ago, I noticed once I did one bad habit, 3 or 4 would usually follow. For example, if I would let my thoughts or emotions spiral out of control, I would usually turn to smoking weed, eating junk food, or watching some form of entertainment. As soon as I gave in and started smoking weed, I would grab the junk food, then start binge watching TV shows and movies on Netflix. Once this happened and I became unconscious of my thoughts, it would take days, if not weeks, before I got back on track, as I would usually fall into a deep depression. This is what Napoleon Hill means by the devil in our minds and how he can take control of us so easily. I recommend you begin to take account of your own negative habits and actions and start becoming more aware of the thoughts and emotions which lead up to them. This is the first step of transitioning from a drifter to a non-drifter, simply becoming more aware, and once you notice these patterns, you can begin to take control and change them. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of negative emotions and habits which can cause us to drift, as we are all different in many ways and have our specific drug of choice when things aren't going well. I believe this quote by Socrates describes this perfectly. The truly free individual is free only to the extent of his own self-mastery, while those who will not govern themselves are condemned to find masters to govern over them. Next, I will go into detail of what Napoleon Hill believes causes us to drift, also the detailed descriptions he gives of a person who is a drifter and a person who is a non-drifter. Before I jump into this section, I believe it's important I add this short statement from the book. Hill writes, "The non-drifter is not born with some mental, physical, or spiritual advantage. The major difference between the drifter and the non-drifter is something equally available to both. It is simply the right of each to use their own mind and think for themselves. This should be liberating as we can now take control of our own lives and not blame bad luck, misfortune, or choose to play the victim. But first, before we can make a change, we have to figure out what exactly it is we need to change, starting with what causes us to drift." Hill writes, "The devil causes people to drift on every subject through which he can control independent thought and action. Take the subject of health. He causes people to eat too much food and the wrong sort of food. This leads to indigestion and destroys the power of accurate thought. The devil causes men and women to drift into marriage without plan or purpose designed to convert the relationship into harmony. This is one of his most effective methods of converting people into the habit of drifting. He causes married people to bicker and nag one another over money matters. He causes them to argue over raising their children, along with engaging them in unpleasant controversies over their intimate relationships, which leads to disagreement over friends and social activities. The devil keeps them so busy finding fault with one another that they never have time to do anything else long enough to break the habit of drifting. He causes people to become drifters by leading them to drift out of school into the first job they can find, with no definite aim or purpose except to make a living. Through this trick, he keeps millions of people in the fear of poverty all their lives. The devil causes people to spend freely and save sparingly or not at all, until he takes complete control of them through their fear of poverty. He causes people to drift into unpleasant environments in their homes, their places of occupation, and with their relationships with friends and family, and to remain in that environment until he claims them through the habit of drifting. The devil causes people to drift into the habit of thinking negative thoughts. This leads to negative acts and involves people in controversies that fill their minds with fears. He plants the seed of negative thoughts in the minds of people through the newspapers, movies, TV shows, the negative news on TV, and nowadays social media having a huge impact, especially if you're not careful on how you curate your feed. The most common habits by which he controls the mind is by entering the minds of people through thoughts and emotions which they believe to be their own. The most useful to him are fear, superstition, greed, lust, revenge, anger, vanity, and plain laziness. Through one or more of these, he can enter any mind. After people are born, he makes use of their environment as means of controlling them. This is where the principle of habit enters. The mind is nothing more than the sum total of one's habits. One by one, he enters the mind through established habits, which leads to absolute domination of the mind. Any habit which causes one to procrastinate towards putting off reaching a definite decision leads to the habit of drifting. Hill also writes, "Poverty, like physical illness, is a contagious disease. You will always find it among the drifters, never among those who know what they want and are determined to get just that. These are the main traits of what causes people to drift or become drifters." Now I'll explain what Hill describes as a drifter. The first thing you notice about a drifter is their total lack of major purpose in life. They will never accomplish anything requiring thought and effort. They spend all they earn and more if they can get credit. They will be sick from some real or imaginary cause, calling to high heaven if they suffer the least physical pain. They will have little or no imagination. They will lack enthusiasm and initiative to begin anything they are not forced to undertake, and they'll plainly express their weaknesses by taking the line of least resistance whenever they can do so. They will be poor at restraining their temper and lacking in control over their emotions. They will have opinions on everything, but accurate knowledge of nothing. They may be jack of all trades, but good at none. They will neglect to cooperate with those around them, even those who they must depend on for food and shelter. They will make the same mistake over and over again, never profiting by failure. They will be narrow-minded and intolerant on all subjects, ready to crucify those who may disagree with them. They will expect everything from others, but be willing to give little or nothing in return. They may begin many things, but they'll complete nothing. If they work for others, they'll criticize them to their back and flatter them to their faces. They will never reach decisions on anything if they can avoid it. They will eat too much and exercise too little. They will take a drink of liquor if someone else pays for it. They will gamble if they can do it on the cuff. They will criticize others who are succeeding in their chosen calling. They will tell a lie rather than admit their ignorance on any subject. In brief, the drifter will work harder to get out of thinking than most others work for earning a good living. This is Napoleon Hill's description of a drifter. If you see yourself in one or many of these traits, don't be discouraged or think less of yourself. Instead, take control of your life and make a definite plan to rid these negative qualities and begin to replace them with the traits of a non-drifter, which I will describe next. The first sign of a non-drifter is this: they are always engaged in doing something definite through some well-organized plan. They have a major goal in life toward which they are always working on, and many minor goals, all of which leads towards their central scheme. Their tone of voice, the quickness in their step, the sparkle in their eyes, the speed of their decisions clearly marks them as a person who knows exactly what they want and are determined to get it, no matter how long it may take or what price they must pay. If you ask them questions, they give you a direct answer and never fall back on invasions. They extend many favors to others, but accept favors sparingly or not at all. If they do not know the answers, they will say so frankly. They have a good memory and never offer an alibi for their shortcomings. They never blame others for their mistakes, no matter if they deserve the blame. They are an inspiration to all that come into contact with their mind. The major distinguishing feature of a non-drifter is they have a mind of their own and use it for all purposes. Napoleon's Hill advice to a drifter is this: he would urge them to wake up and give. Give some form of service useful to as many people as possible. If they expect to get, then they must give before they get. I recommend you go back and save, take notes, or screenshot the causes of a drifter, along with the descriptions of a drifter and a non-drifter. And first start by becoming more aware of your own drifter thoughts, emotions, habits, and actions. Once you become aware of them, you can start the process of getting rid of them. And finally, replace them with the traits of a non-drifter. Make it your definite purpose and goal to begin this transition, and your life will completely change for the better. If you would like to read the rest of this book, unfortunately it's difficult to get your hands on the physical copy, but what you can do is listen to the audio version on Audible, that I highly recommend, as it's Napoleon Hill interviewing the devil, which makes it an interesting listen, along with the fact that this was just a small section of the book, as you will find there are countless more takeaways from the full book. If you use the link in the description below, you can get this book for free by signing up for Audible with my link. By doing so, you will also help support this channel and allow me to keep bringing you free videos like this one. Also, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe so you never miss a new upload. That's it for this one. Thank you for watching and see you next time.